Welcome back to the Gateway RV Transport Podcast. Today we have Melanie Kennedy joining us. Hello, Melanie.
Hello.
Our most important guest to date.
So Melanie and Kevin, Jordan and I's parents, started Gateway back in 2001. So we're going to learn a little bit about from your perspective on Gateways, as well as just a little bit about you. So thanks for doing this with us.
Okay, well, I hope I don't regret it.
So to start, probably a little bit about how you grew up. Tell us a little bit about that and where you're from, what life was like.
Okay, well, I grew up in a large family. There were 11 kids, and my dad was a school teacher for much of his career and also worked for the U.S. government. And much of my childhood was in Alaska, which is kind of unique. We lived in a couple of remote places where there wasn't a whole lot to do or see outside of the four walls. So one of the most unique situations, I think, was this little tiny village that we lived in above the Arctic Circle, where my dad was a school teacher and I was in third grade. And there was one other third grader besides me. So it was kind of a one-room schoolhouse. And we had to fly in on a little twin-engine plane. There were no roads and no cars and no stores and no police and no doctors, no radio, no television, no entertainment really anywhere. You could go fishing or hunting or hiking, but
as a third grade girl, that was probably right up your alley.
Well,
all third grade girls love hunting.
But in the winter, it was extremely cold. It got to negative 60 below. So I didn't even poke my head outside. I would say probably a couple months. I didn't even leave. Our home was connected to the school, so I don't remember going outside when it was frigid. I think we just went to school and came home and played with my siblings and went to bed. And
was it dark that time of year all
yeah,
year
it was
round?
dark. It was very dark.
Or all day, all year round?
Yeah, really dark. And my mom had to order the school year supply of food for us because there was no shopping. The only fresh food we ever got was when visitors came and they would bring eggs or meat or...
Who would visit?
For my dad's job, sometimes there would be school officials or the pilots, maybe. My grandparents actually came and visited us while we lived there. My grandpa loved to fish, so they went and did some fishing. But that wasn't my thing. I don't remember really going anywhere.
What was the name of the town?
That was Venatai.
Venatai.
Yeah. So one school year we lived there, and then we moved to the big city where we actually got a telephone for the first time. And there were, it was a city of close to 10,000 people, Sitka. So that was where we lived for 7 years, and that was...
People have heard of Sitka, I think.
Yeah, it was more of a normal place. Rode the bus to school and had friends besides my brothers and sisters.
How vivid are your memories from Venatai?
Some things really stick out. It was pretty isolating, I imagine, but I remembered listening to a lot of my parents' records, a lot of classical music, and it was only a 2-bedroom little house, so there were 4 kids in the bedroom I was in, and then the baby, Michelle, was in with my parents. But
why did people live there? Maybe it wasn't a third grade girl's in her, knowledge base of what the major imports and exports are for a small Alaskan village. But who lived there?
Well, we were the only non-native people that lived there. So everybody else was Athabascan Indians and had lived there probably for generations. It was, we were very unique.
So
there.
like walrus hunting? Kind of like
No,
what
it
kind of
wasn't
stuff
by
would they
the
do?
ocean. Um, I have no idea. I don't know what they did.
Do you have any idea population wise?
Oh, yeah, it was around 150,
Oh,
give or
wow.
take. It was pretty small.
Hmm. Any desire to visit there again?
No. No. And the year before that, we lived on St. Lawrence Island, which was closer to mainland Russia than mainland Alaska. And that was a little bigger.
Is
I
that where
had a
Savunga is?
Savunga,
That's
yeah.
the word. Okay.
Yep. And there was a whole second grade class there. My dad was the principal at that school. But they had some crazy weather too. They had such a big snowstorm that my dad had to shovel his way to the school. And when I went outside, of course, I was a lot shorter, but it was way above my head. So it was a lot of snow. And when I remember one time, one of the villagers harvested or shot a walrus, and we all went down to the beach to see it brought in. And that was really interesting.
Gee, that's like Herman Melville stuff.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Pretty crazy looking back. I think how would my mother have survived it, because she was at home raising kids and there was nowhere to go. Couldn't even go shopping. You had all your food shipped in. But she never complained. She was up for the adventure, I guess, and just carried on.
And so you moved to Sitka, where you didn't graduate from high school there.
No. At the time, my dad was teaching at a high school in Sitka that was kind of a magnet school for all the little villages that didn't have a high school. They sent their students to the high school there that was just for that purpose. He worked for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I went to the regular community high school, and he taught at this other school. And there were rumors that that school was going to close down, so he started looking for a job. And in the middle of my junior year, we moved to southern Arizona. So it was a huge change.
But a welcome change? I don't know. Were you accustomed to the cold, or is that something you can even remember?
I looked at it as a new start to be what I wanted to be, because I had lived in Sitka for 7 years, and people get classed into jocks or nerds or whatever, and I thought this would be a chance for me to be whoever I want to be, a new start. Because since my dad was a teacher, education was very important to our family, and like my dad would check my homework, and so I got really good grades. I did well in school, I did well on taking tests, and so I was kind of known as one of the smart kids. And
Well, out of a class of 2, it's probably not the...
Well,
I'm just kidding.
Well, that's a little different.
I'm just kidding.
But yeah. So I did. It was weird though, because in Sitka at the time, the popular fashions and had not caught up. Alaska was a little behind. We didn't have the internet, and so all my clothes were kind of outdated. So I felt self-conscious about that. I got contacts for the first time when we moved there, and then I realized
To Sitka?
No, to southern Arizona, Sierra Vista, and that's when I realized those mountains did have trees. When I got contacts, I could see clearly, I guess. But once I got some clothes that I felt were more in trend, and I tried out for the Palms, which is basically cheerleading, at the basketball games. Well, it wasn't actually cheerleading. We did dance routines at halftime. There were the cheerleaders and then the Palms, and I made that team, and that was fun. And graduated from Buena High in Sierra Vista.
And then what?
Then, so I got a scholarship to BYU. So I went up to BYU, and before classes even started, it was just the weekend before, my cousin who lived in the same city wanted to go on a date with this girl, and she would only go if it was a double date. And he conned his friend, who happened to be named Kevin Kennedy, into going on a double date with his cousin. So my cousin talked Kevin into going on a blind date with me so that my cousin Mike could go out with this girl he wanted to go out with. And after that, Kevin asked me out the next morning, and then the day after that, and pretty soon asked me to marry him, like really soon. And we ended up getting married that December. So I was 18 and a half.
So before you met, what were you headed towards before you met him?
Well, when I started at BYU, I declared my major as computer science. And I went to one class and I changed my mind. And then I didn't know what I wanted to. I just kind of was taking general classes to figure it out. And then I didn't even take finals. We got married. I kind of blew my scholarship, but I got my MRS degree instead. And then I went back to college and got my degree in accounting after my kids were a lot older, after most of them were out of the house. So I graduated from Trine in 2014.
Did you find going back to school as a mature student difficult, easier? Do you think it's...
I think it was easier for me than a lot of the younger students, just because I had a life experience to help me. I had done a lot of accounting type things, just for Gateway and other, just being an adult. And what really was more eye-opening for me was all the different points of view that I experienced in college. So my way of doing things wasn't necessarily the best way. Everybody had their idea of how to do things, and it's good to have that diversity and have that different approaches to problems or projects.
I found, I don't know if your experience either, Justin, but most of the last couple of years of my bachelor's degree, I was a mature student because most of my peers were, I don't know,
18, 19.
Yeah, a lot younger. My professors really liked me because I had
like, oh, somebody that's not an idiot.
That's what I felt like. But so I took advantage. I mean, that was not. I guess I did. Yeah, I took advantage of that. That they immediately liked, because I had same thing experiences that a lot of the other students had. I had a house. I had actual bills to pay. I worked for a small business. So anyway, I think that I performed better in school and college because my professors liked me, because I was a little bit older than the rest of the students. So I think that was good for me. Yeah. And I, of course, tried in school. So I think when a professor sees that somebody's trying, that was my experience, the difference between going to a smaller school here and versus going to like BYU, a big school. My professors at BYU didn't really care if I succeeded or not. But my professors at other schools, smaller schools, were more invested, I think, in me. Not badmouth BYU. I had a good experience there while I was there, but it's just so big. So many smart, capable people that if you don't excel, well, there's 10,000 kids right behind you that will. Where here I feel like they had a little bit more investment.
Yeah, I found that too. I felt like the professors really wanted to do everything they could to have you pass and succeed.
Because I think even like I imagine some of our people listening to this, the 3 or 4. So, but some of our drivers probably at certain points think about, is going back to school an option for me? And I think a lot of people in the workforce think won't even give it the time of day, the thought, because they feel like that ship is just gone. But I don't think that that's true. I think a lot of people could. It just is an intimidating prospect, especially if you didn't have a good experience in a school environment when you were younger. But I think the world's moved in a direction where it's really kind of helps people in all kinds of background situations not only be able to attend and get a college degree, but also be successful at it. So,
And I liked that you kind of had to take a wide range of topics just for your general education. In fact, my psychology class I was in with my daughter, which was fun.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. And like we were we ever in school at the same time? Because I did a stint at IPFW, I think in 2012, 2013, somewhere in there.
Well, then
Were
we
we
must
not?
have been.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so it's like me and my mom were going to college at the same time, but we didn't go to the same school. But that would have been fun. It's like I got to go hang out with my mom. We're studying.
well, we went to. There
We
were
went to school at
there
the
were
same time.
3 of us at
Me, you, and Matt.
IPFW at the same time.
Yeah, that was fun. For a brief time, we would do lunch together. Me, you, your friend Lance, and Matt,
Oh yeah.
and just joke around. And then so that was kind of cool going to Purdue Fort Wayne with a couple of brothers at the same time. Even though like you and I were in a similar situation, working here, married, like not the traditional college experience. Like I would drive to school, do my classes, go to work, that kind of stuff. It's a little bit different.
So so we have a very similar experience, and that Gateway was a perfect place. Because I don't know if your intention was different when you first started, but for me, Gateway was a good move for me because it was a job I could do while I was a full-time student, and then when I would graduate, I would go somewhere else. Did not really want to be a part of Gateway once I had a degree. Obviously, that's changed, but I was just really well suited to my needs at the time.
Well, I liked to. So like a lot of the projects that I did in college, I did stuff for Gateway. So like I remember taking a marketing class and I did a marketing project for Gateway. There was some of that kind of stuff. And I decided to make Gateway my career move towards the end of college. Like I was entertaining a bunch of different ideas, but. So to go back, so you 18, you got married, left BYU. What was your life like for the next era?
Well, the next era was probably the raising a family era. So we had our first son about a year and a half after we got married. And we decided early on that I would stay home and not work outside the home to raise the kids, to be there, be a stay-at-home mom. And that's what I really wanted to be when I was growing up, was I wanted to be a mom. And that has been the best experience I could have hoped for. It wasn't always easy. In fact, a lot of the time it was really hard because we have 7, and that's a lot of kids in today's society. But I loved it. I loved being a mom and being there every day. And of course, Kevin was on the road a lot at some points during raising the family, and we'd have to, and before cell phones, he'd call from a payphone or something and have to spank kids over the phone. And but looking back, all our kids have turned out to be really great adults who are productive members of society, and they're our best friends.
What was the decision-making process like when you decided to adopt Justin? How did that?
Well, we just found him.
I'm just kidding.
Freak baby showed up on your doorstep.
Oh,
He was so much better looking than all the other ones.
yeah.
So you lived in Salt Lake area right after you got married, right? And started your family in the Utah County, Salt Lake area.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
you moved to the place where you lived when I was born at some point, Glendale, Utah.
Southern Utah. Yes.
Okay. Which was probably the closest equivalent in Utah to Venati, Alaska. as far as-
Probably. It's a very small town. It's where my mom grew up. And we moved there because my great grandmother's house was available to rent or live in. And so we moved there, and it was an old, broken down little house. And when we first got there, I cried. I was like, what have we done? And it was one closet in the whole house, and one bathroom and a wood stove to heat it. It was kind of like traveling back in time.
Mm-hmm.
But those were a nice couple years because we really just focused on the family. In fact, one of the reasons we moved was because we were in Salt Lake in a tight neighborhood, and it just felt like keeping up with the Joneses, and the pressure from society to have this and do that, and we wanted to get out of that rat race mentality of trying to have and be. And so moving to Glendale was a step back to more peaceful lifestyle, and you can let your kids climb on the mountain behind the house. And I had a lot of cousins that lived there and some aunts and uncles, and so it was good. I think it was good for us.
Do you remember living there, Justin?
No, I was too young. But when we moved to the big city of Wellington, Utah.
You remember that one?
Well, obviously I remember that.
Yeah.
I lived there for 10 years. So
Glendale was like it felt like we were in an old Western movie. If my recollection of it, like walking down to the one general store and spending my nickel allowance on a whole pocket full of candy.
Candies.
Yeah, and chasing lizards through the desert and stealing apples from the one orchard in the town and climbing into people's hay lofts in their old barns. Very old town. Learned how to swim at the KOA. That was the only swimming pool in the town.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely more of a unique experience versus the city life.
Mm-hmm. Well, Wellington, which was next, was not really a big city. It
No.
was
1,500 people, maybe. Well, how big is Wellington, Utah?
Maybe,
A couple thousand?
yeah, maybe 3,000 or 4,000. I don't know.
All right.
At the time, I know there is now no lights, no street,
No stoplights?
no stoplights.
And it was while living in Wellington. So I'd be curious to get this, your side. So our first episode was interviewing Kevin, and he talked about starting Gateway and how Gateway all started. So it'd be nice to get your perspective on, so while living in Wellington, Utah, how did Gateway come to be from your perspective? And we'll contrast it with Kevin's recounting.
Well, he is definitely the entrepreneur. I am more of I like security and safety and predictability, which
You married the wrong guy.
I know, but we're opposites in a lot of ways, so I guess it makes sense. I feel like I sort of ground him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to fly, and I'm like, nope, not today.
I think it's a good balance, being a very removed third party.
Yeah.
I think it's a good balance.
Yeah, it's worked out, but there were a lot of hard times to get to this point. But the beginning of it, I don't know that I was really involved. Like Kevin would tell me stuff that's going on, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Just
Keep bringing
make
in
sure
the
I
money.
can make the house payment. And once, because it took off slow. It was very slow in the beginning. We only went to Terry Vaughn in Texas, and we had like 3 drivers. I mean, Kevin being one of them. So as it started to grow and we had a manager out here that we put a lot of trust in, I actually never met him. I talked to him on the phone a lot, but I never met him face to face, and or he passed away several years ago, so I never.
Well, you never had met him.
Never met
I
him.
do remember though, because you had a little office in our house in Wellington. There was one room that was the office. That was Gateway's headquarters.
Yep.
And I always remember seeing J.J. Keller stuff and dot and then numbers. And then I later learned as an adult or whatever, DOT. But I remember what all this dots. Anyway, you'd start out, Wellington, Utah was the address for, and it was that room in the basement for a while.
Yeah.
But I remember when Skip would call and it would stress you out.
Yeah, it was very stressful because he was kind of an abrasive personality and bossy, and I was kind of scared of him, even though I'd never met him.
The phone one time and said, "Hey, is this Gateway?" And I was like, "No." And then called back 5 minutes later. "Is this Gateway?" "No." I said, "This is Gateway. I checked the number. This is Gateway." And I was like, "No, I don't think so."
Yeah, he didn't know what was going on.
Kept hanging up on this guy who kept thinking he was calling this place called Gateway, but
well, and eventually he was kind of doing some stuff on the side, and we all knew it was time to part ways with him, and he went off and did his own company, and that's when Kim came out and started being the general manager for Gateway. And then we moved here in 2006. And that was a big move across the country with not really sure what was going to happen or how long we'd be here, and we're still here.
with 5 kids, kind of. Because, well, Josh had just got married.
Josh got married about a month after we moved here, so we had 5 kids at home. Yeah.
And then what was your experience like? So how involved were you from moving here until today? What was that summary like?
Well, back in Wellington, I did the pay, I did the invoicing, I did the bills. I mean, I was doing all that. I didn't dispatch at all, but I paid the drivers and invoiced, and then when we moved here and we had our office in Warsaw, it seems like I was going to work most days, if I remember right. I'd go during the day when the kids were in school. And there were times when we had people helping with certain parts of that, but I think it's most of the time I did that until Gary and Bridget came on, and then she did the invoicing and she did the driver pay too, and I checked it. She'd send me the report and I would look over things and tell her if something needed to change. And I had a job outside the home after I graduated for a year. And
Doing what?
I was a bookkeeper for a diesel reman shop. And it was a great job. I loved it. I had this big office, a lot of autonomy, and the job itself, I got paid full time and I was there full time, but it didn't take that long. So I could do reading or looking for recipes or whatever. It was great.
A lot of what Justin
a lot
does
of
now.
freedom.
Yeah, I'm always getting all the
Look at
Gateway
those
recipes in order.
Yeah, but it was the job itself was great, but there was one person there, the only other woman, which I find kind of disturbing, that the only other woman that worked there just had it out for me and just made it terrible for me. I hated it. So I ended up leaving there, and that kind of killed my desire to go work anywhere else. So I just kind of worked at Gateway a little bit, where I needed to. You know, Bridget was still here, but once Gary and Bridget left, I was a lot more involved again in the day-to-day. But now I come in once a week, sometimes not even that often, depending on what's going on. And I like it. I like it that way. It's nice to know that I don't have to be there. I don't have to be that person, that there's someone else that can do those things. And because before, it doesn't matter if you're sick or whatever, you've got to make sure you get all those things done. But now it's good to have more than one person that can do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. I think being such a, I don't know, dedicated mom for so long, do you feel like you were able to preserve who you felt like you were fundamentally, or do you feel like you sacrificed the Melanie side for a long time where you couldn't explore what you liked, what you wanted to do, maybe hobbies? Do you feel like you had to sacrifice some of that?
Well, that's a good question. I loved being a mom. I love being a mom and a grandma. And there are things that I like to do, but I don't feel this overwhelming passion to go start an orphanage or start a bakery or, do something big. I've never had big dreams like that to go beyond. Like, I like being home. And maybe it's because I was raised in some places where there was nowhere to go and we just stayed home. But I'm kind of a homebody. I like being home. I like seeing new things. And this job, this business has allowed Kevin and I to see things I don't think we would have seen any other way.
Like what?
Like 49 of the states. I've been to 49 of the states. Every state we've delivered trailers to. Just haven't been to Hawaii. But seeing, Mount Rushmore and the Niagara Falls and the coastline of Maine and New Orleans and San Antonio.
We've done 3 trailers to Washington, and you and Kevin.
Alaska.
What did I say, Washington? We've done a ton of trailers to Washington. 3 trailers to Anchorage, Alaska. You and Kevin did one of them. I think Ron and Keith did the other 2. What was that trip like?
That was a long trip, and it was a great trip. It was 33 or 3,400 miles one way. It was really long. And we saw so many bear and moose and mountain goats and porcupines, and wildlife was amazing. The roads, some of the roads were pretty bad. They were rough riding roads. And we couldn't always find a place to sleep that was great, but I would love to do it again. It was awesome. I'd love to spend more time once we delivered. We had to hurry back for a commitment, but we had a couple days where we could look around, and it was nice to be back and to kind of see Anchorage. I don't know that I'd ever really been to Anchorage outside of the airport before, so that was fun to explore.
Is that the same trip that you visited Sitka? That was a different
No,
time.
that was when we went on a cruise.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Sitka was one of the stops.
So what's the next era of your life? What do you hope it to be like? What's it going to be next?
Well, I don't see it changing a whole lot because Kevin's got a lot of projects and things he wants to do that occupy his time, but I hopefully will spend more time playing the piano, playing with my grandkids. My kids and my grandkids, that's my life. That's my joy, is to be with them and help them. Hopefully we'll do a bunch more travel and experience some things maybe see some things that we haven't seen before, and just take it as it comes.
What's on your bucket list then, in terms of places to go or things that you want to do?
Well, I'd really like to go to Iceland. That is probably my dream vacation right now, which I think that will happen. We're going to Hawaii later this year. I'm excited about that. We do serve a lot in our church. I think we'll continue to do more of that. I don't have anything come to mind of something that
you want to accomplish or do.
Yeah,
Not like a big thing or necessarily. You say you don't dream in those terms, but there was some, I don't know, something that you just feel like it would be fun to do.
I feel like my dreams have come true, really. There was one year a few years ago where a lot of my dreams came true. I've had a recurring dream for years and years of being in my house, which of course looks different when you're dreaming, and I find a secret huge closet. And I just love big closets, and I finally got my big closet. Kevin built me an amazing closet, and I just love it. One of my dreams came true. And another dream that I had, so my only two recurring dreams both came true that year. The other dream that I would have is that I went back to Sitka after leaving when I was 16, but I didn't have time to see. I was really rushed. Like I only had a couple hours, and I was trying to see all the things. And
in this dream.
In his dream, and then when we stopped there for the cruise, we rented a car, and I was able to take Kevin to the places that had the memories. And the house I lived in wasn't there, and you couldn't even there wasn't even the road there anymore. It was totally gone. But the schools and went on a trail, and just visiting there all day and going to where my first job was, and that was really cool. That was one of my dreams, is to go back there, and I was able to do that. And then another dream that happened that year, which I didn't even realize was a dream of mine, is all 7 of our kids got together with us, and we met in Las Vegas and were able to spend a few days in Airbnb. That was amazing. That was a wonderful dream come true for me too.
Because that doesn't happen that often. Hopefully it will start happening more now that there are none that live outside the U.S. for the first time in a long time.
Well, and that had never happened, and I don't know if it'll happen again. I don't know. I hope so. It's hard to be able to leave. It's hard to plan that. You know, you have to leave your job and your family. Your spouse has to be supportive, and the timing, and it's a little tricky. Mm-hmm. If we all lived in Indiana, it would be easier. But it was fun.
Yeah, you're close.
I talked to him yesterday. I talked to Jared, the only one that's not, yesterday, and pitched it.
If we could build mountains here, maybe that would help.
Well, also, he loves his job.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said for your job satisfaction.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming anytime soon.
Well, the number one question we get from all of the fans writing in for this episode was, what are all the different ways that your son Jordan has disappointed you? Just kidding.
Easy list.
Well, I am so proud of you guys, and I am so glad that you are working with Gateway and making Gateway better than ever. I love it. It makes me happy.
What do you hope Gateway? What do you think? What do you want it to look like over the next? Are you just like, once you're out, you don't care? Or what do you want it to look like?
I care.
What do you want it to look like for people? What do you want Gateway to be?
Well, I feel like it'll stay a lot the same, but just grow in driver base, grow in maybe your customer base, and I don't know. What do you guys want it to do?
Oh, yeah, definitely that.
Yeah. Well, you've helped build a life for a lot of people. I mean, so even Gateway, the amount of drivers that have come and gone through Gateway's doors is I don't know. We'd have to try to sit down and figure it out, but it's got to be 4,000 or 5,000 or more.
20 years, drivers, customers, dealers, like all the people that, yeah, there's a lot.
But I mean, people that relied on Gateway to pay their bills. There's been thousands of drivers, and so, and you know, some that was not for a very long time. Then some periods in Gateway's history, driver turnover was higher, and other times it was lower. But the amount of exposure, the amount of people that it's touched is significant. And so, and even going forward, yeah, I mean, for Justin and I, it almost seems like if my dream was to be an entrepreneur, which for a long time it has been and it continues to be, I feel like it kind of scored almost unfair. Like a lot of people have to try and fail and try and fail and try and fail. And I feel like you guys already did that part for us. And so it's really a huge blessing to be able to come in when we did, to get the training the way and how we have, and take our own experiences, I guess, too, but just have a place so we could try and succeed. And so I'm really grateful for that. We've kind of been set up that way, so we're very grateful for that part of it. They're grateful for a lot, but especially that a lot of the, I mean, we have a lot of difficulties now, and we will continue to have challenges down the road. But you guys paved the way for a lot of what Gateway will continue to be.
Well, and we're thrilled about that. That hopefully you don't have to go through some of the same blood, sweat, and tears that we went through to get it to this point. And that's really what I think a lot of parents want for their kids. They want it to be better for them than it was for themselves. And it's a two-way street. We're so grateful that you're here, to have people working with us that are fun and they are invested and they are sincere and they're trustworthy. That you can't put a price on that. It's definitely mutually beneficial for us to be able to turn Gateway over to you two who are capable, and you have the experience, you have the passion for it, and you're doing a great job. And we love that. Thrilled that we can make that work for all of us. Very happy about that.
I liked, like Jordan was saying, I loved growing up with an entrepreneurial influence. Like I was talking to some friends of ours who their parents have very traditional, good jobs. And just like I grew up with, Dad did not have traditional, normal jobs. He started a lot of different businesses, Gateway being, the main one. But I liked being able to grow up, see how that all worked. Like even me and Josh, Jordan and I's older brother, setting up Axiom compliance systems, which ended up failing, eventually. But in the basement with Dad, like getting to see how like a grassroots business starts and being involved in all that. And I want that for like my family. So it's like the next generation of, and Jordan and I have talked a lot about this, but like I like that there's this thing that can carry on, and that the people whoever comes into the Gateway community, we want them to have a really like the experience that I've had, where it offers freedom and it's this adventure and it's a community, and it can be more than just the place that you begrudgingly go to do the thing that you need to do to get the paycheck. Like you do want it to provide for people and to allow them to have everything they need to take care of their families. But I think it could be and is a lot more than that, and where you get to be on this adventure and building something really cool and being involved in a work that I think is very meaningful. This is a good industry to be involved in. It's, it's a lot of people, they might not care about their industry at large, but like the camping industry, I think is awesome. I mean, I think that does so much good. And we like getting to grow up camping all the time. was an awesome thing to do, and so to be able to do that. So anyway, I'm excited about being involved in this.
What from a business development background and experience, what were some of the most difficult parts of Gateway or small business? What were some of your experiences that were just really hard?
Well, there have been a lot of times where we weren't sure how we were going to pay all the bills. We had to, personally, we were on the hook for a lot and trying to figure out how to make things all work together. Insurance has always been difficult to find the best insurance for the best price. That the industry has changed a lot over the years that we've been buying insurance. Finding people in positions of authority that you can trust. We've had some, issues with that. Damages, of course. Regulations, the DOT, when they say we're going to audit you, that's like terrifying. So,
do you have any specific stories that come to mind when you think of like just the climax of stress in Gateway history?
Well, I remember one time when we lived in Wellington, we had a couple of drivers who they wanted to get paid a certain way and in a certain time that wasn't in our procedure. And they held trailers hostage until we paid them. And that was just so stressful. I mean, it worked out. We paid them and we got the trailers delivered. And then we had one driver that did something similar to that. He was trying to upsell. He was trying to take away he was trying to cut in, go to a dealer and say, hey, just let me deliver your freight. And he had done some shady stuff like that. And then he calls up and says, okay, I'm ready for my next load. And we're like, no, that's not going to happen. We've had probably one of the most stressful times is when we had a driver crash and he went in the river and he almost died. I mean, that was horrible. And so we pray every day that our drivers will be safe. And that's really the main thing is we want the people to be safe. And of course, we want all of our drivers in our office to be able to support their families and have a great life. That's really what's important to us, is that people are having a great life and being able to take care of their families and their debts and be able to enjoy it as they do it. And it's kind of cool to be able to see the country and get paid for it. It's really cool to do that. Also, hopefully our people, our drivers are taking some time on the way back after they drop their trailer to enjoy the country and see some things that maybe they wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Do you have, on the flip side, do you have any stories that come to mind of like just you really feel just so happy about Gateway, or that in that moment you thought, this is what I want, this is what we're trying to do? So I'll let you think about it for a second. I have a lot of those come to mind, usually involving specific individuals, of just interacting with a driver who is sincere, that they came to Gateway at a difficult time. So we have one driver who had just tragically lost a son, came here just to get away, just as a place, a job that could get them away from home, away from their town, and just found, I've used the word just way too many times, really found solace in being out on the road. And we were able to work with them, and I think we do a pretty good job of being personable and caring about them, and they felt that. And they would come back and then just express how it's been a really good experience for them, more than just a job. Like, those are the instances that I think this is why we're doing that. And hopefully we have more of those than drivers who are trying to hold trailers hostage, or because same thing. I feel like my biggest stressors come from drivers who we have put trust in, who have betrayed our trust. That I think is the most stressful part for me. Trailers are gonna get crashed. It's gonna happen. DOT compliance is gonna be a pain. Gonna happen. Bills are coming due. That's gonna happen. But when you are betrayed by somebody that you put trust in, that you establish a relationship with, that's one of the worst things for me, is that stressor. But anyway, to the positive side of it, I think it's, again, for me, it's been the individuals. Do you have any specifics?
Yeah, there's been a lot of drivers that, some of the drivers I've never met before. I wouldn't know which name went with which face, but over the years, we've had some drivers that would stop by the office and chat with me and share their personality and their soul with me, and we'd have a rapport, and you look forward to seeing them and hope, you want to keep tabs on what they're up to, and there've been a lot of those. Another thing that sticks out is delivering a trailer to Newfoundland. When you're riding on a ferry, you're thinking, wow, this is so cool to be able to go see this. I never would have been there, never would have gone there if it wasn't for delivering a trailer up there and seeing some amazing things. It's just the opportunities. It's really cool. I love it.
Yeah, me too. Well, before we as we wrap up, hopefully we'll have more and more drivers listening to this. Anything that you wanted to kind of say to whoever's listening, or I don't know, any advice or?
Well, we appreciate our drivers. We wouldn't be able to do this if we didn't have great people driving, delivering trailers. So thank you. If you're one of our drivers, we appreciate you, and we don't take that for granted, and we want you to succeed. Your success helps us to succeed. So we love Team Gateway and hope that people can thrive and be loyal and safe and happy.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Unless you have anything else, thanks for taking the time to do this with us. This is fun for us.
You have one more question, right?
I don't have any more. Do you have one more question?
Is there one more question you're expecting?
Yes. The question you ask everybody at the end.
Well, Jordan's did not do it last time.
We did that one for the whole first season.
Is that not a thing anymore?
I can ask you to ask. I had this vision
of being
in my head of being able to, on their birthdays, get drivers their favorite dessert, and that's just is so hard to coordinate. So record everybody's answers and then try to. So, but I will ask you, what is your favorite dessert?
I would have to say lava cake.
Okay.
I actually had somebody ask me what your favorite dessert was, and I said, I am not.
I have a lot.
I said cheesecake, and I actually said cheesecake and lava cake were my two guesses.
Yeah, I love those. And brownies. Yeah, all those things.
Okay.
Ice cream.
Okay, Jordan will add it to his database.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time, and hopefully, even though you don't come that often, you'll still get to meet more and more drivers, and they could see the face to this new voice that they will have only just heard.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for listening.